Thank you, lovely ladies and the three gentlemen in the room. And before we start the program for the day, I must give a few minutes to our host, Mr. Chike, my MD. This week is Africa Week, and Friday will be the Africa Day celebration. And it's very important for us as Africans and to share our experiences in what we are doing in our own various spaces to build Africa for Africa. And as an African Global Bank, we are very passionate about driving and having conversations on how we can build Africa together. So, Chike.
It's my pleasure, my sincere pleasure to welcome all of us here this morning. As it looking, I just need to quickly do my bit and ensure that I don't disrupt what else is going to take place here. But like Mary did say, first of all, this month is Africa Month. So we've narrowed it down to Africa Week celebration this week. And for us as Africa's Global Bank, we take whatever happens within and outside Africa, as far as it relates to Africa, very seriously. And that means that we've celebrated Africa Day as a bank for the past 15 years. And it's important for us because it helps us to reenact every year what makes us special as a people. We look at the continent, there's huge opportunity for growth. So many definitions have been placed by the global world about Africa. Some have called it the dark continent. Some have called it when the CNNs of this world are portraying Africa, they only go to the slums or where there is war. And those are the pictures that we see about Africa. But beyond that is the fact that within Africa, a lot is going on and a lot is still going to happen. With a population of about 1.2, 1.3 billion people, it's a huge market that cuts across. And the beauty of it is that there's hardly any international airport within Africa that you go to. Maybe you just go there and spend 1, 2, 3 hours, and you watch the people that come out of the airplanes that come into that airport. You will see the Indians, you will see the British, the Europeans, the Americans. They are coming in here because there's huge market. There are so much potentials within Africa. And unlike Shakira said during the 2010 World Cup, that it's time for Africa. And that is what we've been living with. So much activity, so much advancement is brewing and coming out of Africa. So it brings us down to our theme for this year's Africa Day celebration, which is Innovating Africa. Because, of course, there has been industrialization. We were not part of it as a continent. When industrialization took place, it took place outside the continent, and just little bits of it was brought in here simply to serve the purpose of those that did industrialization. So Africa became the source for raw materials. It became the source for labor to advance the economies of the big nations, the European economies, the American economies, and the rest of it. China has equally come in to take their bit out of it. So today's theme, which is Innovating Africa, is one that we believe we give all of us an equal chance to play in today's economy. And, when I look around the composition of ladies here today, it tells me that there are opportunities for Africa to innovate. A lot really needs to happen for us to catch up. But as it is today, innovation is like coming up. There's a lot that has been done in that respect, but there's still a lot that can be done. And for us, at the point where we are coming in as a continent, it is not too late. Today, there's a lot of strong input into technology, into fintech, into digital banking coming out of Africa. And these opportunities will help Africa to address unemployment challenges, will help to address, income inequality, will help to address economic growth across the 3 key economic units that we have, whether in Kenya, whether in Nigeria, whether in Congo. This is very important. And that's why we are all gathered here this morning, to talk about Africa, speak to Africa. And there's no better gender to do this than the ladies. Because, they say that when you educate a lady, you educate a nation. Simply because that the ladies take care of the family, they take care of the children. So at the end of it, by the time we are done with the discussions and the engagements this morning, I believe, UBA Bank believes, that we would have advanced innovation out of Africa, we would have advanced economic growth out of Africa, would have come up with thoughts, advancements that will lead to the betterment of all of Africa. Thank you so much. Welcome to our Africa Day Symposium. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chike, for that introduction. And without further ado, I want us to quickly introduce my panel. Very powerful women. Today I feel like a dwarf. Yes, very, very powerful women who've done a lot of work across the continent, as well as also touching in some of the issues globally. So starting with Mary Ngechu. Mary is the MD of Lineplast. She also serves in the advisory board of the East African Business Council, where she represents SMEs and MSMEs. She's also the chairperson of Women in Manufacturing. Underline the word, Women in Manufacturing, and Kenya Association of Manufacturers. And she's very passionate about entrepreneurship. She's mentored over 100 businesses under the Kenya Association of Manufacturers hub. And she's also signed up in the UN Women Empowerment Principles. And she'll also be talking to us on what she is doing in that space. My second panelist, Flora Motai. In fact, I was asking her, did we take her tea today? She's been an entrepreneur for 26 years. She founded Melvis. I know most of you have seen Melvis Tea. This is the person behind Melvis Tea, and she's done it for 26 years. So she'll also be talking to us about it. She also represents the Kenya Private Sector Alliance as a chairperson, the first woman chairperson of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, which is an advocacy body for entities in the private sector. And she'll also be talking to us about being a founder as well as running a policy body that has been engaging the government in changing a lot of things in that space. Then last but not least, Nora. I don't even know what to say. This girl has a 3-week-old baby. And she left that baby to be with us today. Isn't that amazing? Yes. You can see the passion for Africa. And again, it shows how women are showing up, to talk about issues that are affecting us as a continent. She's a mechanical engineer, and she's a founder of a company called Drop Access. And Drop Access has developed or manufactured solar refrigerators. So when you think about vaccines in the remote parts of the continent, you think about Nora. Karibu. So to start us off, Mary, probably you can walk us through your journey, both in business and also in advocacy.
So thank you very much, and good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
As she has said and given a bit of my profile, I am a co-founder for Line Plus Group, a group of companies that are owned and run by me and my husband. We've been in business for nearly 20 years now. I pride myself to say that we started, me and my husband, but now we are employing about 400 people. I've been in that space of manufacturing where most Kenyans, Africans will think that it's not a space for women. And I'm trying to tell the world that manufacturing can be done by women and done better by women. We are manufacturing plastic containers for across different industries, the pharmaceutical industry, food and beverage, cosmetics. We are also doing the labels that come along with that. So in that area, we pride to say that we are offering packaging solutions. And we also currently manufacturing cosmetics. I have a brand in the market called Black Essential. And we also have another brand that we are manufacturing industrial cleaning, food grade industrial cleaning and disinfecting solutions. I also sit in as a leader, and I'll give you that my journey. Building a business is one thing, but being intentional to be a role model in a business is another thing. So I've been intentional to be a role model, and this is the reason why I've moved myself into leadership spaces. Because I can grow a business that is employing 400 people, but am I inspiring other women to come up and show themselves? So I've intentionally taken the leadership position so that I can be able to talk about what I have achieved, share my challenges, inspire others, and it also gives me motivation to do best, because if I have to be a role model, then I have to work on myself, and I have to make sure that I'm building something that others can be able to inspire. In the advocacy space, women in manufacturing, what we do is to bring women together. Because as I've said, the thoughts or the belief is that manufacturing is not a space for women. So when we put ourselves together as women, we are able to give each other warmth. Women thrive best in community. When we speak to one another, when we see someone else has been able to do it, we relate, and we also believe that we can be able to do that. So we've built together a program where we train each other, we speak to each other, we explore different challenges together, and we're able to share, and we learn from our experiences, peer-to-peer learning. We also look for the women who are ahead to mentor the others so that they can be able to bring them up to different roles. We also encourage women to show up in leadership position, because a study was done, and one of the biggest challenge that we are getting as women is representation. So we are insisting that it is good for women to be sitting on the tables where decisions are made, and not to just sit, to contribute and take leadership in those positions. Women in manufacturing at KAM was started by Flo. I was in her advisory committee, so she grew herself now to KEPSA, and she passed that baton to me as the chair now. So I am also looking that I want to pass that baton to another woman as I move to where she is, as she's moving to Africa. So we have to show up for Africa. We have to be intentional about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. I think you've mentioned something very powerful, being intentional in what you're doing. You know, when you left your employment to start in your business to where you are and you're moving to Africa. Maybe you can speak to us briefly about EABC and how is EABC looking at, from where you sit, in driving MSMEs and SMEs to the continent.
I'll talk about the Africa Free Continental Trade. It's an opportunity that has been created for Africans by our governments. The role of the government is to create an enabling environment, but it is the role of the entrepreneurs to come in and do the business and take opportunity of that. If you look at the businesses that we have in Kenya, in East Africa, most women businesses are small. So we need to almost consolidate our effort to be able to tap into the opportunity of what we are calling the Africa Free Continental Trade. So when I showed up at the East Africa Business Council, we did not have an SME organized at a regional level. So when I proposed to the board that we come up with a regional platform, and I was given the mandate to drive that. So I put in now a regional platform, and what we are doing at the regional platform, and the SME for me is a scope that have been given for women and the youth also, because if you look at, as I've said, the demographic of East Africa, most SMEs will be women or they are youth who are coming up. So what we are doing is to put together a platform of SME women and youth so that we are able to highlight and come up with opportunities and train and help these women to access those opportunities. I'll give an example. If you look at different clusters or different sectors, if you look at agricultural sector, there are huge opportunities that are there. But if you look at how Kenya, East Africa, we are all small farm holders. Our produces then means that we'll get them in small bits. How do we consolidate, how do we aggregate that so that we can be able to approach the Africa market? So that it is not me sending my 10 kilos, another one sending 100 kilos. How do we come up with a platform where we can aggregate our efforts and then we approach the market as we take advantage of the opportunity that is there? Then also, how do we come up and ask our government to understand the level where our businesses are? So in terms of policy, yes, we say we have big businesses, but we also have small businesses. And even when we are making policies, we need to consider and come up with a model that allows the small businesses to scale up so that they can be able to meet some of the big obligations that they are not able to meet when they're small. But if they are empowered, if we had hold those businesses, they have opportunities to grow and they can be able to comply, whether it is through taxation, so that we don't tax the small businesses and the big businesses the same. If it is regulatory standards, can we be a little lenient when the businesses are coming up so that we give them opportunity and space for them to grow? That is what we are doing at the region so that we can be able to access together the regional market and also access the free Africa continental trade market.
Thank you so much, Mary. I know, and I like what you're talking about in terms of advocacy for tax regulations, because we know most of the countries that we play in, over 80% of the businesses are SMEs. So that's a brilliant work, and I think our customers who are in the room, I think we can tap also in to see how we can work with EABC in terms of driving that change for businesses. Flora, now to you. I want us to talk to us about you being in business for 26 years in a sector that has been played by global entities. We've only seen Finlays, the big boys. You as a woman playing in that space. And are you taking Africa?
Thank you very much. Yes, I started Melvin's it's now 27, this is my 27th year. And really what had happened is, like you say, Ketepa had a monopoly actually, 19 years monopoly. So they had just lifted the monopoly and I was looking for an opportunity in business. And that's when I said, this is what I'm going to do. So I came up with two products. I came up with plain tea, and then I said, how come we don't have flavored tea in Kenya? At the time, we only had one way of taking tea. So ginger tea was my favorite, so I said, why don't I put ginger in this? I learned how to do that, and I put it in. And, it picked up. It was a very slow start. I must say my first 6, 7 years were very slow. It was fortunate I was very young. I actually did it straight out of college. I only worked for 9 months. So really numbers didn't mean much. It was more like, I've done it. So slowly it has grown. And of course now we are national, we are regional, and we are also international. But we obviously want to do a lot more. So it's been a difficult journey in terms of, and I keep saying this is the challenge that challenges, I would say, women, SMEs, is I call it the big A. It's access to information. When you're setting up, doing your business strategy, where do you get this information? You always ask, what is the size of the market? Where do I get that information? And at the time, there wasn't a lot of Googling and a lot of any of that. So access to information was quite a big thing. Then again, access to, again, knowledge. How do I blend? I was not a manufacturer. How did I learn? I actually learned how to do tea by going to, I met somebody of KTDA, because I used to buy their tea anyway. And he said, young girl, you don't know what you're doing, come. And I had to say I was a student, and I had to wear a white coat and go and taste 100 cups of tea a day for 3 weeks. And that's how I learned how to taste tea. There's nowhere to get this information. So lack of, it's access, knowledge. The other one, of course, is the big one that you guys tried to solve, and I'm saying try, but intentionally, which is access to finance. How do you get finance? But you're an SME, where are you going to get collateral? Where are you going to get people who understand what you're doing? At the time, the question was like, you're so young, you don't know what you're doing, you've just come out of college, there's been the monopoly, so there's, you're fighting constantly. And then again, to the knowledge access, there's also standardization, regulation. How do you get to know all that? So I say we all face what I call the big A, which is, access to information, finance, knowledge, standardization. And the bigger one is access to markets. How do you access a market? So for me, fortunately, I started here, so I was able to understand the general market, and then the modern trade. And they all have very different, diverse ways of approaching them. When you go to the region, how do you cross over? How do you make payments? How do you receive payments? So it's generally been quite an interesting journey. But I do say today, in this economy, and that's why you find us so passionate with Mary about supporting women in small businesses, is the information is there, but it's all over. It's, again, very fragmented. How do we package it in one way where you could have, because what we found when I was the chairperson of Kenya Association of Manufacturers, you tend to find people keep coming to you for these conversations. And we're like, no, but there are other women manufacturers, and they say, tell us. And you could go one hand, if you're lucky, you throw in another hand, but women are always manufacturing. If you think about it, this weekend, somebody approached me and said, oh, I make this at home, or I do this, I have this side hustle. But they don't realize that is the foundation of manufacturing. So what we did is we started a program where now we bring them in, train them, show them where to get access to all that they are looking for, and then we start linking them and doing visits to the bigger companies, which tended to be the bigger boys. Fortunately, we are there and we are trying to help. So that you get them to come and visit and see and expand their minds. We actually found a bigger challenge to finance is actually knowledge and the mindset. Do you have a growth mindset? Or is it, oh no, I can't do this? So we tended to want to expand that space. I think we've done well. And when I left KAM, I actually now started it in my own business. So I have a Melvin's Women in Manufacturing program as well, where I think I've graduated about 100, but I found, again, there's a lot of information, but access to markets. So just to talk about Africa Continental, for me, I start them on with just taking them in front of Naivas, Naivas, the supermarkets. Then they'll tell you, oh, now I've gotten a market in Rwanda. How do I go across payments? How do I go across, what model should I pick up? Do I take the product across myself? Do I get a distributor? So those are conversations we have, but need to continue to be had.
Thank you, Flo, for that. And I just want to answer two things, even because you're talking about African Global Bank. So again, for you, access to markets. One thing that we do is to ensure even the 20 countries where we are in, even as you look to set shop there, we put you in touch with the officers in that market to see where either they know somebody who distributes your product or would want a partner in that market for your product as well, and it's something that we can help you. Again, you talked about collections. We have what we call UBA Connect, where we can collect your funds within the continent. And that's just going back to you again in terms of policy and from where you sit currently now as KEPSA chair, being the first woman chairperson of all these big boys. How has that been? And what policies do we expect from you, or what are you driving to in terms of driving this agenda of African integration?
Actually, my big step was first when I was asked to be the chair of CAM. Now there is where you have really big, I'm not saying KEPSA is not, but I think that was my first step. So I was the smallest business on the board. I was a woman. There were other women, but then so that one was really how are they asking me to lead? But I think it's really about this whole conversation that we're having around diversity. So, why can't you have A, a lady, and B, the smallest business on the board leading us? So I think for them they were being cheeky, but anyway, no, they were probably listening to the narrative that is there, that the more diverse people you have in a room, obviously the better you're going to be and the more sharpened your strategies are going to be. So when I came into KEPSA, yes, another big leap. For me, I just see it as do your work. I'm very collaborative in the way I do my work, so I get a lot of support, a lot of input, because definitely they're not there by mistake, and they definitely know a lot. So what do these bodies do? What we do, of course, is we advocate for policy. First of all, we advocate because we say government does not do business. We do business and we know where the shoe hurts. So what we do is we go to government and say, hey, this is hurting us. What can we do around this? And I'll give you an example. When I was in CAM, I think I came in when the retailers were really hammering us hard about payment, and there was this story of these supermarkets that were going down, and of course, who do they hurt the most? Usually, it tends to be the smaller businesses. So I took that as my mantle and I ran with it. And we came out with, together with a prompt payment code, where we said, if you borrow from, if you've taken a service from somebody, you need to pay them in 30, 60, 90 days based on whatever terms. But beyond that, what can we do? And I remember at the time, actually, I think the bill has been passed. What it is awaiting for is regulation. Unfortunately, this is all the way from 2017, so it's taken a long time. But at least we were able to put in, the minister at the time found it important to put in the competition authority. So today, if you have a problem, especially in the retail space, you can actually go to the competition authority and explain that I'm being bullied. Because what you tend to find is there's what you call a dominant positioning. So these people were using their dominant power to actually frustrate, especially the smaller businesses, although they were frustrating everybody. But if you tell a big business, I'm not going to supply, they say, fine, I'm not going to give you my product either. And you cannot be running a retail business without the bigger brands. So they tended to get their way, but the smaller people didn't. So we were proud about something like that. And the second thing we did is we also got the retailers. They got themselves organized and they are able to respond to us. So today, if you have a problem, again, once you write to them and say, listen, either through CAM or through KEPSA, we have this issue, they are coming to the table and they're very concerned about us not ruining their space. Because one of the things they were being challenged with is they were going to be asked to capitalize to the level of their creditors. So if you're a supplier, we were going to ask them to do that, and of course that's a big thing to them. So those are the kind of things and the kind of policies that we tend to drive by looking at a problem and saying, how do we do this? So going to the African issue, of course, intra-Africa trade is only 18%, whereas inter-European trade is up at 65%. American, I think, is at 45%, Asia 45%. So if Africa does not trade with itself, what are we doing? Obviously, there are many challenges and there are many reasons this has happened. One, just the way we, smaller businesses, very, very fragmented. Our infrastructure, it is cheaper for me to send a consignment to Europe than it is for me to send a consignment on the African continent. So our infrastructure has been challenged. Our currencies, our policies around, movement of person. So of course, with the coming of the African continental free trade, we are able to then come and say, hey, how is this going? This is what private sector wants to see. It's being driven by government, we agree. But they are listening to us and we are coming to the table and saying, this is what we want. Again, solutions are being brought by private sector. I know Afri-Exim Bank has just sorted out they're calling it PAPPS, the pass. They've just sorted out that investments are going to come from private sector. But I believe what it is doing is it's giving us access to markets that we have not had for a long time. And that economy of scale is really what is going to drive Africa's contribution to global GDP, which is only 3.1%. It's actually very, very scary. And to to Chike's comment, why are we seeing a lot of people coming off the continent? Because we are the solution. We have so much. We have the beautiful shores. We have the wildlife. We have the minerals. We have the youth population, 1.3 billion, all youth. They're seeing all these opportunities, natural resources. So Africa is the solution going forward, but Africa needs to talk to Africa. Africa needs to do business with Africa. You know, why do we get tea from Kenya? We have the best tea in the world, third largest producer of tea in the world, and it goes all over the place and comes back from Europe into Africa. You know, so we should be taking our tea across. Cocoa, the same story. Cocoa comes from West Africa. Shea butter, I mean, we know the story. So we're very proud of the Africa Continental Free Trade. You know, they recently did what they call a guided trade initiative, where they took 8 countries, because the protocols are now fairly reasonably in place. They took 8 countries, and they started, they had a guided trade initiative. Tea was one of them, where they said, let us, with all the protocols we have now, let us take tea across to Ghana and see whether it succeeds. And they did. Unfortunately, they only picked a few companies, and like for us, it's so interesting. We had a Ghanaian distributor actually pay for our goods. They said, don't worry about standardization. We're going under this guided trade, we're going to do it. So they paid us, we prepared the product, and when we came to standardization, we couldn't. So already it's starting to show that, you know, we still haven't ironed this out, but through the guided trade initiative, we've been pushing, and I hear we should be getting our certification soon.
Are we moving with speed, or what can be done to drive this initiative?
Actually, I was in South Africa the other day, and Mene was asked the very, very same question. I believe we are moving well enough. This protocol was only muted in 2018, ratified just the other day in ratified, you know, from 2018, and actually only went into full implementation. When was it? Available for implementation in 21. So I think, you know, considering it's 54 governments that are coming together, 47 of which have signed, I think we're doing well. And having this guided trade initiative is now where they are saying, listen, we can talk all we want, but let us actually then start having trade initiatives to see whether it is working. I do know end of this month, the ministers are coming here now yet for another one. 2 weeks ago, we had a business summit. I think your bank was there. We had about a month ago, we had a business summit in South Africa. So yes, I believe we are moving. Could we move faster? Of course we could. But this is the time now where private sector needs to come in, start identifying where you want to go, start identifying who's going to give you this information, because it is still sitting a lot in ministerial levels, but it is for us to demand, because like we said, private sector are the ones who do the business.
Thank you. And in terms of the payment, again, just to mention that UBA is actually a part of the piloting banks for the PASS, for the payment platform as well. So we're also looking forward to see how do we support businesses in terms of payments across the continent. Nora, back to you. Probably you can walk us through your initiative and the impact that you've seen it drive, and probably what made you think of developing solar refrigerators.
Thanks so much, Mary. You'll excuse me, I have a small cough that came with a small baby. Anyway, so I'm a mechanical engineer. I'll just go to your first question about what drove Vaxibox to be developed, and maybe the formation of Drop Access as an organization, and also the pivot that we've done to where we are before I go into the impact. So when I left School of Engineering in 2014, and even before I left School of Engineering, I was given all these hopes for 5 years that, oh my God, you're a woman engineer. We're only like 10 of us in a class of 100. So it was hopeful, like you're a woman in this space, you're going to make it, there's opportunity, you're going to thrive, you're on the right path. Then in 2014, when I graduated, there's no job, which didn't really make sense, yet there's so very few engineers in the space. Very few mechanical engineers, women mechanical engineers in the space that I was in. So I started to wonder that, what's going to happen to the future when more engineers are being encouraged, more women are being encouraged to take up engineering roles and engineering courses to graduate and represent the sector, represent the market, like try to change the dynamics of how there's so many men within the space. And being jobless, yet we were still the few in the industry, bothered me in so many ways. Because to me it was a failed promise, utterly failed promise. I felt lied to. There's a time I was ranting that I want my money back. For 5 years I went to school. Maybe I should have done something else. And it was a joke, but really, truly, I wanted my 5 years back because it didn't really make sense. So I go through School of Engineering. But then the bigger picture that I came to learn was there are not really jobs in the African market to take up all the 1.3 billion youths within the space. There are not enough jobs in the Kenyan market to take all of us, irrespective of engineering or whatever course that you're going to pursue. And the population is growing really fast, and there's going to be a crisis later on in the future because the youth is going to become so populous. Then what happens with a very populous young nation? There's going to be lots of energy to go around that will be directed to the wrong places. There'll be crime, there'll be just so much chaos within the space. That also bothered me. Considering through my life, I literally dedicated my time to solving problems, to gearing towards creating solutions within the African continent that made sense to me, and not what I read in books or what I was being told within the magazines or the media that comes from the West. So fast forward, I tried working within the private sector space where I did like some sort of contractual works for people and engineers who could take me in because there wasn't really so much employment opportunities. And I yo-yoed from one place to the other with internship. Actually became a serial intern from one organization to the other, which is pretty cool because then I got to learn some skills and also had diversity of mindset. And it made me realize also that career is not really linear because I did engineering, I mopped around for not getting a job, but then, come on. I had all this internship doing sales, doing production, doing manufacturing, doing various kinds of things. And it opened my understanding to know that these opportunities that I'm looking for are not going to come for me. There's no one coming to save me. I have to save myself. I have to create these opportunities. And that's what prompted me to start my organization, Drop Access. It started as an NGO, and we quickly pivoted to limited company, mostly because also learning how the NGO sector worked. We were creating a continent that was really addicted to fund and aid, addicted to aid, that wasn't really sorting out the issues of poverty. And also it came to a point where I was so bothered by the narratives of, oh my God, we are the country that is dark, that is what percentage that do not have electricity. Those things bother me because we have so many opportunities and we have great minds within the continent and we should be able to fix it. Plus I did engineering, come on, I should be able to fix these solutions. And when we pivoted to Drop Access Limited, we were working in the energy space because the last internship that I did was actually in the energy sector. I was basically modeling out how solar systems can actually become cheaper in the agricultural sector. So I worked in a project for USAID Powering Agriculture, mostly doing auditing for flower farms, then trying to figure out like how do these flower farms can actually install the solar systems, because if they install them in large quantities, then it makes solar cheaper. But then also looking at the other side of Africa is still a dark continent, and there's so many people in Kenya who do not have electricity, including my own home back at home. I thought then maybe we're approaching this the wrong way. Maybe the ways of making solar more affordable is not really embedded in rolling out very large systems, but also comes into trying to figure out what are the most beneficial or rather the models that make financial sense to smaller households and businesses. That's why I started working with rural farmers to see how can they get like solar pumping solutions, solar household solutions that will enable them to be much more productive, store their milk or get more milk or mill the animal feeds, so that they produce feeds quicker and get more milk. Like they become more productive generally, not that venturing into productive use of energy. So I did solar pumping solutions for farmers. I did solar cold storage solutions, off-the-shelf solar cold storage solutions. Also did solar household solutions, and something happened just before COVID. So we did a campaign under another project that was supporting farming communities, dairy farmers in Eastern Kenya, in Makueni. By then I was living in Makueni, where we really promoted the use of clean energy for dairy farmers so that they actually get more milk, and we call it every drop count, because really milk is a crisis and a luxury in Kenya. So it would be good if you actually get more from the farmers and into the market without these policies. Then a farmer asked me outrightly, after we supported them from the beginning of acquiring a solar pumping solution till they increased their productivity, then in the end they lost the milk. They lost so much milk and they kept on losing milk. I just asked me, Nora, seriously, why improve my productivity from the farm level, then I can't get this to the market, and I can't really count in the dollars, or rather the shillings that you promised us when you took up clean energy. And it got me thinking, you can't just provide a halfway solution where we give you solar for pumping to get more milk. And then what happens with the more milk? How do you get your shillings back into your pocket? We have to go the whole way. We have to bring in productive use of energy solutions that will ensure that really you get your money till the end. You actually get all the coins that you worked hard for from the time you tended to the cow. So it means also introducing cold storage solutions to these farmers. And that's why I started exploring getting solar refrigerators into the Kenyan market that were much more affordable, but then they're quite costly, like upwards of 200 Kenya shillings, and a farmer who honestly cannot just afford that even on a one-off payment or even like a pay-go solution. And I thought, let's get smaller solution. Let's get more affordable solution. Let's try and see if you can incorporate pay-go and also other technologies that can really help them remit the payment or even track how much the payment is coming in so they actually pay for these refrigerators. And another thing happened during that point. I came to realize that we are bringing in so much technologies from abroad, from China or from Taiwan or from Asia. They're great. They're right now they're the solution that we needed, but then there isn't such a very well-structured way of maintaining these technologies. Because once I promise a farmer and tell them, I'm going to give you this refrigerator, you pay for it for 2 years. Then it breaks down on the first year, and I can't fix it. I can't find a replacement for these parts. When I try to fix it, even as an engineer, there's proprietary protection that just limits me. And I have to ship in a very tiny part to replace maybe the broken part all the way from the manufacturer in China. And it's much more expensive to ship in and replace this part. Yet it's something so mundane, something that I understand as an engineer, that needs to be fixed as quick as possible. It can be done cheaper, and also we reduce the downtime for cold storage. And that's where the light bulb moment just came in. We can't be doing this, going back and forth, taking up technologies that come from the West, claiming that we're actually taking up solar solutions, and yet we're always trying to fit our lives into these technologies. How about Africa and Kenya actually makes its own technology and have the technical support, the engineers like us and the other people, to fix them as fast as possible and ensure that we reduce the downtime and also make them quite affordable. I'll be cheating farmers if I ship in a fridge, then I keep on telling them, oh wait, this part actually costs a third of the cost of the refrigerator. Then I put the cost onto them. Then I also have to make my money. If I'm going to send a technician, I have to make some money to pay the technician. It's a rip-off. And I thought manufacturing these technologies and building those an infrastructure for an after-sales support that works well and that is also much affordable, made much more sense for us to progress into getting energy access a reality within the Kenyan market. And the first fridge that I conceptualized with my team was actually a milk refrigerator. There's so many issues within the dairy sector. You can't just bring a fridge and drop it over there and it works. And also given the cooperative model of where milk is populated. And that actually took, a nosedive into the deep end of the ocean. And I realized, oh wait, we have to rethink through cold storage. And between that time, also COVID had hit. Then we thought, okay, fine, we've already developed a refrigerator, we have the pilot, this actually works. And also think of a smaller refrigerator that is much more portable. How about we actually pivot the solution into the healthcare sector? And that is how now we ended up developing the first MVP for the VaxiBox solution. So VaxiBox is a portable solar-powered refrigerator that is meant for healthcare, for storing vaccines, keeping the vaccines within the acceptable positive 2 to positive 80 degrees to serve the healthcare sector. And another push for us, that's why we got out of the dairy sector first into the healthcare sector, because when COVID hit, we realized that even if we were to help farmers become much more productive in insane amount of ways, if these farmers don't survive COVID, our work won't make sense. First, we had to survive COVID, we had to survive the pandemic. And we did another pivot then to pivot the solution that we created into supporting the healthcare sector, supporting vaccine rollout, and also ensuring that we're actually able to provide an after-sales support also for these fridges. Because irrespective of where this fridge came from, whether it's a healthcare refrigerator, whether it's a milk refrigerator, it's a household refrigerator, the problems are still the same when it comes to cold chain technologies, especially solar cold chain. You don't get after-sales support. You don't get technical support. When you get it, it's expensive, and also it's very, very hard to get. And also, this solution that we're getting at foreign, they break down, fine, even if you get a technician to form it and to repair it, and you recount the work that you've done, to what's the benefit for Kenya really as an organization? Have we created more jobs? Have we actually added more value into the economy? That also bothered me because I came from a point where I didn't have a job as a mechanical engineer, and I needed to see that the work that I'm putting into the market, if I'm going to work in the energy sector, created more jobs for young people like me. Also developed microeconomies that eventually became even bigger economies. And I was very passionate about developing microeconomy because the work that I was doing was being done in the rural. And I saw how we're trying to roll out pay-go solutions for rural communities that can't even afford it, making them poorer actually, to drive the narrative that, oh my God, we're trying to create much more energy, we're trying to increase the energy access within the African continent, yet people are becoming poorer because they took up solutions they can't actually afford.
Thank you, Nora. I mean, our mind is always working. You can tell, eh? One solution doesn't work, we better make it work in this space. You know, you don't stop. And I like that energy. I like the drive. And you know, having a woman develop or manufacture a refrigerator, really. And I think when I met Nora the first time, she's an alumni of a school I go to. So when she came to the podium and she said what she was doing, I'm like, I need to know this lady. Then I followed someone. I realized actually part of where she's doing this vaccine. Solar vaccine refrigerators. Actually, it's near my village. Probably it's even helping my relatives in the village. So there's a bit of impact right there. So going forward, Nora, for you, what is the next innovation? What else are you thinking? Which other problem are you looking at solving? And yes, you've done this in Kenya. Are you looking to scale up? Because I know you've had visibility. I know when I was looking at your profile, I saw your moment with Jill Biden. You know. Yeah. So what are you looking at for the continent in your space?
Obviously the biggest issue that we grapple with also stems from regulation, access to financing. And you're right about access to financing being an access to knowledge issue. But then to us, to my organization and to Vaxibox, the biggest issue is regulation. And I was just sharing with Flora a few minutes ago that Vaxibox is trying to become the first WHO certified vaccine refrigerator in Africa, because there isn't none. Thank you. And for us to actually get there, we have to pass through so much regulation, some which I'm just getting to understand on a daily basis. And we need literally so much forces to rally behind us to help us actually get to the point where we get certified by WHO, not just to serve the Kenyan market, because we've had quite a bit of visibility within Kenya. Our fridges are selling in various areas. We're actually scaling to Western Kenya this year. But then there's much more demand for the Vaxibox refrigerator outside Kenya. So we're doing the first import of this fridge to West Africa and to Cote d'Ivoire. And it's such a problem getting this fridge onto a flight to Cote d'Ivoire because there's so much regulation when it comes to safety of goods, the WHO regulation, so much healthcare requirements that it's strange to me, but it's doable. So we have to bypass all those regulations, not even bypass them. We have to achieve all those standards that are required, because at the end of the day, this is a healthcare refrigerator. We have to give the quality assurance that is not going to harm people. That is when we'll actually achieve that scale. And it's a daily work in progress, involving lots of consultants to come help us. How do we get the Vaxibox refrigerators to be WHO certified? How do we meet all the ICEs and the ISO standards that are required for a healthcare refrigerator? And this has never been done before within the African continent. So there is no blueprint of, oh, check this book and see how maybe Uganda did it or whatever country did it. We're actually building the standards from scratch. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of patience from us. Also, it's a gamble because since it's not been done before, we don't know how long it's going to take, whether it's going to be 7 months or it's going to be 3 years, but we have to do it, considering there's so many demands for the Vaxibox refrigerator, and also so much demand for better healthcare, not just in Kenya, but the rest of the African continent. The next innovation, obviously you figured me out, it's to diversify more products within the energy and the healthcare nexus. Because it's not just the fridge that will save us. Fine, we'll keep the vaccines from +2 to +80 degrees. We'll ensure that all the children get fully immunized by the age of 5, but then there's another technology that is missing. A technology maybe for delivering blood better into the body, or ensuring that women actually do survive better maternal care, and also maybe children actually do survive post 5 years old, or even reduce cancer. There's obviously more technology. And it's not just the hype of engineering this and bring them to market, but also the fact that for once we get to have our own narrative of this is made in Kenya, this is made in Africa. It's an African technology designed by Africans, funded by Africans, and also being sold within the African continent and accepted by the African continent. That's a game changer, because let's stop fitting into the foreign technologies that come in. Well, the business is good. We should get the foreign technologies, but also Africa needs its time and the space. And who's going to put product into the African continental free trade areas, it's us. Well, there's no point of creating the whole regulation without enough businesses to transport goods or even to sell or even to trade across the continent. There has to be more people. There has to be representation. So we hope to contribute to that. And also we hope to create more jobs within the African sector. Let's not be more engineers getting out, or even anybody from any course getting out of university and being jobless. Let's get more job opportunities. The government won't create these opportunities for us, obviously. We have to be the ones, the private sector, the youth and the women industries. We have to get these opportunities for each and every single person if we want to change the narrative of Africa is a poor continent, it's a dark continent.
Well done. Thank you. Back to you, Mary. And again, yes, you went the whole loop from making the containers to the labels. Then you realize, wow, African women need to look beautiful and they need to have African products. Tell us about Black Essentials and where you see the journey of Black Essentials in the continent.
Thank you. I think I talked about aggregating resources. And Black Essential is one of my brands that is in the market. I have now another new brand that I've put in that I'm calling True Natural. My manufacturing entity is called Aroma Care. So I'm positioning Aroma Care to be a contract manufacturing facility. And why contract manufacturing facility is because if you look into the beauty sector, so many women are in the beauty sector. We have a lot of natural resources. We have shea butter, we have cocoa butter, we have avocado, moringa, and all that. But the heavy work is in R&D, research and development of the product. What I'm doing is to put together a team of research and development team, scientists, and I've also put together a well-equipped lab so that we're able to develop products and have certifications. I'm working closely with the Kenya Bureau of Standards, across also East Africa with the other Bureau of Standards, so that I'm able to develop different products for different brand owners for going to the market. We are putting together an initiative that we are calling Source Africa Cosmetics, and what we hope is to put a basket of different products so that we can be able to access the free Africa continental trade. So I have different cosmetic manufacturers in Ghana, different cosmetic manufacturers in Nigeria that I'm putting together. This week, you've seen we have an exhibition for Ghana that is happening. 3 of my friends from Ghana are in that exhibition, and we are looking into how do we put together a basket of products that are speaking to each other from development to packaging to access the market. I'm using the same platform to guide on different innovation in developing different packaging, because I think the back of Aroma Care or the cosmetic manufacturing is the strength of the packaging. Because I've said we have the containers and we also have the labels that we are putting together. I'm also huge on sustainability, on waste management, and what we are doing is to even work with the different organizations that we are working with to maximize recycling and also embrace reduction of waste so that we can be able to maximize profits in our businesses. I have also another initiative that I'm putting together for Africa. I'm calling it Africa Waste is Wealth. And Africa Waste is Wealth is embracing circular economy in our business models. I've worked in Kenya with an initiative that is called Takataka ni Mali. Takataka ni Mali means waste is wealth. So it has been a model that has worked well in Kenya. Every time I tell people about Takataka ni Mali, then I tell them I am not recycling and I'm not collecting waste. So they ask me, what are you doing? What I'm doing is to bring to the minds of the bottom of the pyramid of everyone that waste is a resource that we can be able to look into. And if we change our mindset of how it is that we look at our waste, not just in our businesses, but also from our homestand, we can be able to reap different opportunities that are there. And we have also talked about access to finance and access to market. The market today is demanding that we must be conscious about what we are doing with the environment in our way of doing business. So there's a ESG requirement, even for any bank to give you money, any investor to get into your business. So we have to be creative and come up with different innovative models of how it is that we are doing our businesses if we have to get that access. So the cosmetics are based on natural resources that we have. The Africa Waste is Wealth, a circular economy model that we are putting together so that we can be able to unlock the Africa market and tapping on the opportunities that are there today, that people are conscious about their health. So we want to have cosmetics that will take care of our body, our skin, without harming the environment or exploiting whatever it is, resources that we have. So those are some of the things that I'm doing for Africa.
Thank you, Mary. I don't think these women sleep. I mean, the things in their minds. I mean, every time they speak, something new comes up. Flo, quickly walk us through the role of partnerships in achieving this goal we are looking at, going to Africa, from where you sit.
I think partnerships is something we've totally underplayed for a very, very long time. And right now, with the challenge that we have ahead of us to take up this market, like I say, 1.3 billion, those are 1.3 billion clients that you can actually take up. But you can't do this on your own. I mean, and the amount of money that is out there, was it $6.6 trillion? It's a lot. And I always say, who is partnering with who? You get out of your home, you go, you want to start a business. Today, I know you banks have a lot of clinics. You have a lot of, I think you talked about UBA Connect. You talked about, there are two things you talked about.
I spoke about the partnership with AfriExim on the payment platform.
Yes.
Also connecting clients with the market.
Yes. So I'm just trying to take it from an individual point of view. So you come in and where you go to do whatever you're going to get your financing, ask them what is the partnership, what is going on, what is happening there. Join that. Again, so from an individual point of view, from a business to business point of view, we're looking more now at cooperation as opposed to people working together. So how does your bank speak with KEPSA? How does your bank speak with CAM? And then we're talking about countries cooperating, because the whole Africa, it's really, really, really just a partnership. So where do we find these partnerships? How do we build them? But I always say for women, one of the most important things I tend to find, we tend to be a little bit shy about not knowing. We tend to be a little bit shy about not feeling adequate. All those syndromes that seem to follow us all along. Put it out there, because right now I can tell you for free, there's almost a solution to a lot of the problems that we are looking for. Nobody needs to sort of, die with their problem. As leaders like us, we've gone ahead. We're always looking for areas. How do we help? How do we mentor? Organizations are doing it. Governments are doing it. So right now, I think the way of the world is really about cooperation as opposed to previously, where it used to be about competition. Unless there's a particular partnership you want me to discuss.
No. I think you've nailed it. Nora, what would you tell your younger self or the young ones who are leaving school now? We know there's been issues of, yes, you leave. I mean, doing engineering is not easy. Then you don't get a job. Then people slip into depression, slip into, suicidal. What would you tell young Africans who are graduated? What would you tell?
Well, one thing I always tell people, the young people that I mentor, who are getting into running ventures, is career is not linear. Once you understand that career is not linear, you'll kind of take your clock and your graduation gown, put it on the side, not really dump it, but then also try out different opportunities that are out there. And the good thing with this world today is that there's so much opportunity. It's that unfortunately people don't know, the young people don't know that is out there, whether it's within the digital space or in manufacturing or in sustainability. There's so much opportunity to go around. Just find your niche. There's always a niche for everybody. There's a niche for each and every single person graduated from school. It doesn't necessarily have to be in what they really studied. And another thing that I always tell young people is no one is coming to save us. It sounds bad, it sounds really from a pessimist perspective, but really it's just to get to the point for them to realize that we are the solution that we've been waiting for. We are the help that you're waiting for to sort all the challenges that we see, whether it's joblessness, whether it's poverty, whether it's illnesses. We have the solutions in us because the world has become so small that you can literally get the help that you need from any place. You just go to the internet and Google it in this generation, or you try it out in a course that is being offered for free, or some digital technology, or through some embedding yourself with some startup. There's so many startups that are coming up. Or start something, just start, and keep at it, run it, learn so much about it, and better yourself at it. It's going to pick up. So we are the help that you're waiting for. Just find the challenge, look at it like an opportunity, and try to find a solution, or rather build around the opportunity that we see. Then surely we'll just end most of the vices, or rather the challenge that we see of joblessness, or having no space to express ourselves. Because these are the reasons why people get depressed, because they feel like it's a hopeless situation, but really just turn the challenge into an opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you. I think I want to open the space now to the rest of the floor.
Good morning. My name is Victoria Osure. I am a serial entrepreneur. I dip my fingers into a number of things. And it's been a learning curve because some are hugely successful and others not. Just a couple of things I've learned, and thank you very much, lady panelists. There's always so much to pick up from entrepreneurs who started off like you did and have grown to where you are today. I always remember a season when I left the corporate world and started exporting flowers. And we had an amazing base of potential buyers. Some did materialize, but back to the same issue of doing Pan-African trade. We never knew about the African Standardization Organization, which is equivalent of our KEBS. Didn't know it existed. Apparently it was formed in 1977. They're present today at International House. And we had clients who actually got better prices than what we're offering from here. Like talk about the peak seasons like Valentine's. And we had clients in West Africa who'd get cheaper flowers from the Amsterdam market, or from the Francophone countries who'd rather buy from France than us, yet their flowers grown from Kenya and exported into Europe. So one thing that's a big issue that we've experienced is that transport across Africa is very expensive, especially for fresh produce, where you know that it has to be back-to-back, proper management of temperatures if you're shipping perishables, and again, on-ground infrastructure. That's been one of the challenges experienced, but I hope it's getting better. I've heard about and met people who've participated in the Africa Free Trade, what's coming up. I guess it's work in progress. A couple of conferences that have been ongoing about the opening up the free trade. Is it possible to let us know where we are with that, how far off we can dream about this coming into reality?
I think a lot of the protocols have been done. I think rules of origin, they're talking about being at about 89%. They've done an e-book on, I think it's actually the rules of origin. So what is happening now is they need implementation to begin, and that's what we started in 2021. But so what they've done is they've picked 8 countries and what they're having is guided trade initiatives. So they're now overlooking now, they're now trying to say, okay, take your flowers, what is the rule does it fit the rules of origin? And then does it become, is it free tradable among those 8 countries? So that's the initiative they've actually just done. Like I said, tea I know was a success. I haven't heard of any others. So perhaps, I know there's the ministerial meeting end of this month here in Kenya, at the Safari Park. So I guess we need to find out what more and what results. And this is what is one of the key outtakes of this coming meeting, is where we are going to see how is private sector going to be informed about what is happening. So like I'm saying, I know it's happening, but I don't know at what level or what their level of success has been so far. So I think the thing to do is just to keep very close to them and find out how we can do this. Because I myself was asking them when I was there in South Africa is, who is your implementing body here that we could actually check. So you'd be able to say, listen, my fresh produce, is it under the Guided Trade Initiative, which I believe it is. Huh? So if we find out those 8 countries, can you begin and actually try and get your product across and see what happens?
I think maybe also to add on what Flo is saying, there is no one space you're going to go and get all this information. And not Flo, not me, not even the KEM or the KEPSA will give you all this information, because as you said, we are working with 54 different countries. It is important that we be on the lookout, and when you get information, let the other person get to know how that is going, so that we're able to embrace. Flo has said that one of the reasons why we are putting together platforms like the Women in Manufacturing is so that we can be able to gather as much as possible information that is out there, consolidate it, and direct people or women into a platform where they can be able to get all that information. We are business people. Flo could be the chair of KEPSA, but she's in tea industry. So she will understand generally what KEPSA is doing, but she may not directly tell you what is happening in the cosmetic industry. We have other different small associations, sector-based. I'm sure you are a member maybe of the flower sector. You're able to get that information and come out when we have this conversation. Let's share the information that we have. You've talked about the ARSO. I got to know about the ARSO in South Africa when we were in South Africa. I didn't know about them. Not because they are not there, but because maybe they don't have capacity or they have not talked about themselves a lot. So when you go out and find, and I visited them, I think 2 weeks ago, and they say they actually have a capacity building program for different organizations to access the free Africa continental trade. And the capacity building program that they are having is literally paid up for 70% for companies that can be able to qualify that. These are information that are out there and nobody is speaking about them. So we need, as women, when we go out there and we see such opportunity, to be generous enough to speak about it so that others who fit in such opportunities are able to fit in. So the ARSO, as we speak right now, I don't know if you like, I could connect you with them, but they have a fully paid capacity for certification for the free Africa continental trade.
I'm looking around, yes, I can see.
Thank you. My name is Anna Owako. I'm here from the health sector. Actually, I'm a pharmacist, and I'm seeing a lot of solutions here. I wear 2 hats. I run a pharmacy called Karina Wellness. So I'd want to talk with the contractor about contract manufacturing. And I also represent an organization called Daktari Africa. Daktari Africa is a virtual platform for delivery of health services to far-flung areas which do not really have quality healthcare at the secretary level, at specialist level. It's a virtual platform, so I'd really want to be interested to see how this forum, these panelists can plug in to define solutions, like the VaxiBox solution in terms of reaching the very far-flung areas, whether in Kenya or in West Africa or even in South Africa, in delivering these health services through the channels of the healthcare professionals. Unfortunately, I'm the only healthcare professional here, I think I am, and I challenge the panelists and the hosts to incorporate healthcare professionals. This weekend, I'm attending an annual scientific conference at the Kenya Pharmaceutical Association. Most of these conferences are just medical science, but they're not really crystallizing on solutions of what I'm hearing here this morning. So this is really just throwing it back to the panelists and see how we can integrate the healthcare.
There is a product we're trying to work on, and we're looking at getting a license to manufacture in an EPZ location.
Yeah.
Then came this whole conversation of the Africa free trade and all that. So that's the reason why we have a lot of interest in this going forward.
Okay, why don't you look at an SEZ, which is a little bit more flexible?
Okay.
A special economic zone. That one is a little bit more flexible. You are allowed to do more into the country. But I don't see a problem with having the Africa. Oh, the idea of somebody from outside can then come and sell their products duty free.
Ideally.
Okay. But these are the little nuances that they actually now are trying the guided trade initiative so that they see what it is. So, but for me, if I were you, I'd look at SEZ. It's a little less stringent.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you. My name is Susan. I love learning, and thank you for the knowledge. I really appreciate, and I know even the ladies in this room feels the same. Looking at what you're doing, not even for yourself only, you've talked about like 100 graduates, you have mentors, you are in the manufacturing sector. So these are innovations that you're coming with and new things. So the knowledge, the information is there, the knowledge is there. Maybe the market, like you're saying, you're going to Western, and you're going to maybe globally, maybe if you have issues around regulation. But my question is around access to finance. Considering that maybe these are startups or maybe expansions that needs a lot of finances, how are you maneuvering it? Maybe you, by yourself you're able to, but what about the people who are looking at you, your students, the mentors, the mentorship programs that you're doing? What do you advise them, or how easy is it to access finances so that they can be able to move?
Yeah. Thank you for that. So normally, excuse me, the mentorship that I always do for the young people who want to get into running a startup or a venture, we always have a section on financing. And one thing I always tell my mentees is understand where you are. As an organization or as a technology, as a venture, you need to know whether you are a startup or rather a complete beginner in the industry, or whether you are at an intermediate stage or you're at the growth stage. Because financing comes also with the positioning. There is the different kind of financing that is available in the market, depending on what stage you are at. If you're a beginner, maybe you are getting into the product industry and you're trying to do a minimal viable product. You must understand the kind of financing that is available for minimal viable product, especially within the African continent, or rather, not even Africa, in Kenya. So let's say, for example, like as manufacturing technology, there isn't so much financing for manufacturing technology. So that's why you have to leverage on let's say, prizes and grants and awards and maybe competitions and also government prizes that are available to be able to develop your MVP and move forward to the next stage, maybe where you're prototyping. And it can't just be the product alone. It can be a service that you're also prototyping within the market, like you're piloting. So you need to understand, am I a beginner? Am I a pilot? Am I at a growth or a scaled stage? Because the moment you understand the stage that you are at, you'll get to know or have visibility of what financing is available for the stage that you are at. And also you become more attractive to the financier if you know also the ticket sizes that are available in that stage, and also ask for it, and also be able to put up the financial infrastructure to be able to manage that kind of financing. And so normally the young people who are getting into this industry, we always believe that I'm going to throw my idea out there and somebody's going to throw money at me. It doesn't really work like that. There has to be accountability. At the end of each transaction, there's a human being who needs to trust that when they give you that money, you're actually going to spend it in the right way and also going to, if not profit, impact. Or even it's going to impact you where you grow your technology to the next level. So also those are things that young organizations need to understand. What the financiers need out of you. Do they need profit? If it's profit, then maybe you need to grow your business a bit much, go to the scale, be able to get like equity kind of financing or even more patient capital. But if maybe it's an impact investor, then also you need to know how to tap into the impact, or even be able to account for that impact, or even track it and communicate it, and also be very sure that this is the impact that you're going to get out of it. Or if not completely sure, like have some certainty that this is the impact that is going to come out of this investment that is being done. So there are three things that that always feel like come into play when financing is involved. There's you, the owner of the venture or the technology, then there's the financier, and also there's the market that you're targeting, and the market also lies hand in hand with the technology that you're giving that you're bringing into the market. So you need to really know so well what stage you are at to be able to capitalize on the kind of financing that is available at that stage. And it has to be a learning process. Like for us, we have to understand what MVP, who finances MVPs for solar refrigeration? Are we going to package it as an energy product, or are we going to package it as a health technology? There was no one to take up financing for the health tech when we started Vaxibox. But when we sold the narrative as an energy product, we got financing. And also, it got to a point, I literally had to set the narrative like, this is a woman-led product. So we actually got financing for that because I just started learning what stages I can capitalize on, and it helps. Like right now, we are in the third iteration. I'm getting the R&D financing. I know very well that I have to be very, very cautious when it comes to the kind of equity and other patient capital because it's quite risky. What happens at the end when I take up equity of X millions dollars and the product doesn't actually get to market? We're just getting into market or getting to have a taste of the market. We still don't even understand how the market is going to play out when we ship it outside Kenya. So now we have to play with those who finance healthcare development within the African continent. Tell them, hey, we're trying out a new product. It's still risky, but I think we can work with you. But because we've come to understand what stage we are at each point of the way. I hope that makes sense.
I'll go next. Mary, this is more a comment and a challenge to you, right? So it's always amazing meeting ladies. I've met some of you, Nora, Flo, Meringechu, Vicky, because we get to learn a lot. Today I was writing as if I'm in an MBA class. And my challenge to you is how do we amplify this content or this information to other people who are not in this room? Because, I mean, I've learned a lot. And I'm going to try and teach people what I've learned today, but I'll not be able to, explain it like Flo does when she's talking about, the policies and everything that is happening to drive Buy Africa, Build Africa. How do you amplify this? And Nora, I'm going to steal something that you've been using the whole day today or during this session of no one is coming to save you. I'll be using that statement a lot because, no one is coming to save us as Africa. We have to do it ourselves.
It's true. And tag your friend along, Yeah. Tag your sisters, tag your friends, tell them about these events. Because there are going to be so many events over by UBA and Mary and them. Tag your friend. I came to start speaking at events because I was tagged along to events and I was like, oh my God, the people doing amazing things out there. Then I attended another one and I tagged somebody else and now I'm in a committee of women who do business, young people who do business, people in manufacturing. Because of that, tag them along so that they learn and because you get to create a chain and also create a butterfly effect because this information will just find its way to percolate and it amplifies itself. Tag your friends.
I think ask them also to join associations, an association in whatever you do, if it is in flowers, if it is in whatever, because you get a lot of like-minded people who grow you. I mean, I like when I joined the Kenya Association of Manufacturers is when I really realized, oh my gosh, I'm such a small fish, and then there are these people who are doing such big things. But if you stay in that space, you start learning the language, learning the opportunities. You can always, when you have a challenge, like when we have a challenge that challenges our exact industry, you know who to call. So I think that's the first one. But the other one I think is, I think we owe it to the next generation to really share with them that we have to create a growth mindset, not a mindset of entitlement, which unfortunately a lot of them seem to think, oh, there are no jobs in Africa, nobody owes you a living, and I think that's a mindset we need to really share with them and ask them to create a growth mindset. How do you move from step 1 to step 2? Despite all the challenges, we know the challenges in Africa, and that's why we're called the dark continent, but we can only change it if we see opportunities in those challenges. So for me, the more challenges you see, the better for me because I see more opportunities. And how can we make that more a mindset than anything?
I think my contribution also would be in terms of what we are calling access to finance. I've seen a culture where startups, small businesses, we are all looking for grants. And it is important that we know when to stop looking for grants or for seed capital because we spend so much time looking for free money. There's literally no free money. You can become a slave by looking for free things. You see a lot of innovations, startups, somebody gets money, then they take that project after 1 year, you have not been able to commercialize it, then you're looking for another startup money. So you will forever live in chasing the free money. So we have to be intentional to understand that if it is capital that I'm getting, I can only get capital up to this level, but I must intentionally start commercializing. Sometimes somebody told me that when somebody gives you something for free, you need to know that it is not my money that is for free. You could be the product that is my free. You are the product that I am selling. So I am literally using you as a product to grow or to scale my business. So as young people, as startups, we need to know the difference between grants and seed capital. And if it is seed capital, it cannot continue being seed for 5 years. It has to seed and grow. So as we look for seed capital, as we look for impact money, we have to intentionally know that we have to move from this level to the next level to the other level. And every level, what does it mean to any investor who is coming to my business? If you're looking for scale, I say that we need to stop capacity building SMEs. We need to help SMEs to scale. Flo has talked about access to markets. A lot of opportunities will pass us because we don't have capacity to access that market. And capacity is in quality and in quantity. So even before you talk about money, have I prepared my product to pass the quality that would speak or that will make a person buy? Then once you prepare your quality, your quantity, then look for money that takes you there. If you walk into any bank, there's equity capital, there's debt financing. Debt finance is always cheaper than equity. Equity is patient. You have to know what money you need when. Sometimes I talk about supplier financing. Banks are doing LPO. It could be LPO financing. It could be just what you need to take you to the next. It could be improving your supplier's relationship so that they give you more debt. They give you more credit time as you're growing your business. So we need to look and analyze what money do I need where, because sometimes you get money that is not suitable for your business where you are, and then it becomes then a barrier for the next level. So analyze, start understanding, as she has said, who is financing what, and what money do I need when, and how do I plan to pay that money.
And for all of you in the room, we have all types of that money. We have seed capital under the Tony Elumelu Foundation. If you're a startup, $5,000. We run the challenge once a year. We close the applications by 31st of March. We give you 5,000 based on your idea, and we also match it with capacity building of the similar amount. Once you come out of the startup, again, we have the unsecured SME loans, which you call it the temporary overdraft facility, based on your turnover. You don't need to give us your financials, just look at your turnover and give you an amount based on that. Then as you grow, now you move now to the commercial side that Mary was speaking about, where we analyze you. You've grown now, you can walk, you can run, and again evaluate based on your business needs and give you the facilities that you need. For myself, I've really learned a lot, and I think this is something that we look at doing, in a more, instead of sending people to the other associations, maybe as UBA, be the ones who run these conversations. I think it will help many people in terms of how they're running their businesses. And again, you're talking to people who are experienced, people who've fallen, woken up, fallen again, and they're still walking. Whenever I go see Mary, she always comes to see me with a notebook. So we talk, then tomorrow she tells me, I implemented. I'm like, huh? Me, I was having my glass of wine. You were writing. So I think entrepreneurs are wired another way, a different way. So give us a parting shot on what do you think in terms of innovating Africa and the theme that we are celebrating for this week.
Well, I always believe that all these narratives and the challenges that we have within the continent, we have the solutions to all of them within the continent, and we are the solutions. So we have to start things, we have to support and work with our ventures or the things that we've started, and there's help available. just find out where to get the help. We must be resilient in driving these ventures to growth, because if we really want to build that GDP, to stop being so alarming, like you are, it starts from us. It starts with us. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Innovate or die. It's a cliche. It sounds like a cliche, but it is a reality. Today, if you're a fashion designer, how many fashion designers are there? There are a million, 10 to the dozen. And I know there's a program you promised us. I hope it's kicked off. If you're a manufacturer, let's say of refrigerators, here she's innovated. She's having people, perhaps even queued up, I would imagine, wanting to give her funding. You see, she's talking about, I know where there's to get this, and then I move from this one to this one. And I know women who have been looking for funding forever. Why? Because they're not innovating. You know, whether you're in, I guess I like creativity. I was the first one to bring free-flowing salt. Actually, tea was not my first product. I don't know if you know that, Mary. Free-flowing salt, the salt that flows from the salt shaker. You don't have to put mchele and all those other things people do. That was my first product. Brought it into the market, then I realized, hey, by the time you make money on salt, a ton of salt was $100. So within a few months, I came out with tea. But again, I didn't do just plain tea, I did flavored tea, first in Kenya. During COVID, you guys all went home, so that side was working, but now we had the offices. So the few who were in the offices were saying, what do? We came out with a vending machine that I'm still trying to bring to your bank. So you can press a button and get instant tea, coffee, drinking chocolate, but mainly tea. What did that do? It released a lot of companies from having a tea girl. But although now we work with the tea girl and we tell her, please just help refill this machine, and you can be freer to do other things. You can actually now start upscaling, go and start doing deliveries or something else like that. Again, then currently right now, last week we launched instant tea. So you can walk around with a sachet, like these little ones over here. It has tea, milk, and sugar. So you just cut over and open the sachet, put it in your whatever. What am I saying? It's really, I would never have been able to go up against that giant of 19 years if I had not done the innovation in the flavored tea. So in whatever industry, even you people who do services, skills, recruitment, how can you do it differently? In fact, today, my suppliers, I'm starting to, in fact, my team now knows, I say, bring me a young supplier. Why? Because they're the ones with the crazy ideas. These are the ones that are starting to say, like when I started doing my business, when I want to market, the KTN would come, KBC would come, madam, who's your medium buyer? That time you're a small SME and you're thinking, what? If these guys only knew I had zero. But today, you guys have the luxury of social media. And then a social media kid is the one who will tell you, no, you don't have to buy ads like this, buy like this, because they've seen a gap and they've seen how to commercialize. So I'm really serious when I'm saying innovate or die. Even these banks, you guys have had to innovate. When I was telling you earlier that, always push back with the bank, it's because they were so rigid. For me, it was like, you're too young, you don't have experience in this field, what collateral do you have? Today, they even come and I tell them, are we having the collateral story or not? If it's a collateral conversation, sit over there. I've given you enough collateral. Now let's talk about the other avenues that you have. And they are there. They really are. So innovate your thinking in how you consume, but also how you produce your products or your services.
So innovation, I don't want to repeat that, but it is said you cannot keep doing the same thing the same way and expect different results. I'll talk about being a woman, being a leader. You cannot lead people to where you don't know. You have to continue equipping yourself. You have to continue capacity building, your capacity thinking. An entrepreneur, your business can only grow as big as you can think. Not as big as you can do, but as big as you can think. Because you think big, then you get people who help you to achieve the vision and the dream of your business. So as an entrepreneur, we need to stop being the technicians in our business. Yes, I was with Fro over this weekend and she talked about a book that I love very much. It's called The E-Myth. And The E-Myth talks about an entrepreneur who wears the technical hat, who wears the manager's hat, and yet you are the entrepreneur. When you're starting your business, you can be everything, but if you remain being everything in your business, it then means that your business can only grow to the capacity of what you can give that business as a person. So you have to keep looking and learning how to equip yourself with infrastructure, with system of people who take up some of the roles that you can be able to delegate, so that you remain the vision bearer of your business. Travel, walk, network with different people in different sectors. I am in manufacturing. I am doing cosmetics, but I understand what happens in the health sector. I'm interested to know what happens in the tea sector. So not so that I can go to the tea sector, so that I can broaden my thinking and I can start thinking tomorrow, do I have packaging that I can develop for the tea sector? Do I have packaging that I can develop tomorrow for the health sector? So don't limit yourself into what you're doing. Be open-minded so that you can learn as much as possible, as much as you can be able to get out there, so that you can broaden your thinking. Africa, we are talking about Africans for the Africa. Make sure that you understand and contribute in very small steps. Because if we have to build Africa for Africans, we all must be intentional to contribute to be the Africans who are building Africa for Africa. When your boss was talking about the opportunities, Europe, everybody is coming to Africa. I remember one time I sat with a gentleman who was coming into Kenya to start up a big enterprise, and I asked them, what is it that you're seeing in Kenya that us Kenyans are not seeing? We must start understanding what is the world seeing in Africa that we are not seeing. Then we look into how can we tap into the nearest opportunity that is to you. There's an example that was given in Kenya when we were putting together the standard gauge railway. It is huge for me to even start thinking even how the government is doing that. But if I remain in that mindset that this is for the government doing it, I don't see the opportunity as supplying the beans that the people who are building that railway would cook for their lunch. So there are many opportunities. There are big opportunities, but there are also small opportunities that are close to us. We need to start looking at the opportunities that are near to us in the value chain that we can be able to contribute so that we build Africa for Africans.
Thank you very much, ladies. I think the conversation has been very interesting. Have we learned? Can I see a show of hands? Have we learned? Please, a round of applause for my panelists. And thank you so much. We'll call up on you again and again. You can see our clients here want more and more. One of the things I said is network. You know, pick something new today, even as you walk out. And again, I've introduced you to the ladies, the money ladies. Talk to them, find out where your business is at, and let's have that conversation. So thank you very much, and have a good day. Thank you.